Hi, Christy. How are you? This is
I'm doing very
Melinda.
well. How are you? Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you. You're looking so
Great.
gorgeous today.
I'm sorry.
You're looking so gorgeous.
Oh, thank you. We have matching blue.
Yes.
I
I
love
like
it.
blue. I like blue.
Yes. Well, it looks beautiful on you.
Oh, thank you. So, thank you so much for joining this Global Virtual Summit 2025 day one. So, I think you're enjoying the speaker presentation. So,
Yeah.
let me introduce you to the audience, okay?
Okay, thank you.
So, welcome on stage, Christy Moore, guiding decisions with intuition and insight. Christy Moore. She is a powerhouse of transformation, blending 2 decades of leadership with deep expertise in counseling and coaching. With a keen ability to help individuals break free from limiting beliefs, she empowers them to embrace their voices, trust their intuition, and step into their fullest potential. Her compelling insights and strategies illuminate the path to self discovery, providing a roadmap for alignment, clarity, and lasting transformation. So, that was a great topic. So, yes, you can occupy the stage. Good luck.
Okay, great. Thank you, Melinda. Hi, welcome everybody. Again, my name is Christy Moore, and I am thrilled to be here with you today. I think before we actually begin, I want to acknowledge the entire WIN team behind the scenes because I think we can all agree that it's not a small task to put together a global summit. So please give them some love in the chat. And then on a side note, it's important for me that because this is a gathering of individuals from around the globe, and in light of everything in the world everything that is the world is witnessing here in America, I think it's important for me to say that I am embarrassed and I apologize on behalf of our country and that I do stand with Ukraine. I appreciate all of you for choosing to be here today and share your time with me. And I am grateful and hopeful that you will find value in our time together. And as we're kind of getting settled in, I invite you to, if you haven't done so already, go ahead and grab a something you might want to jot down some notes or some reflections that might come up for you during our presentation today. So I also, although I'll be doing most of the talking, I do. I'd love to get a sense of who's in the room today. So if you're up for it, go ahead and take a moment and share something about yourself in the chat. Perhaps how long you've been in the industry, where you're tuning in from today, what industry you work in, or what even brought you here today. There are no right or wrong answers. We would just love to share about who we are in the audience. So, and while you're doing that, I'll go ahead and share a little bit more about myself. Again, my name is Christy Moore, and I'm tuning in from San Francisco, California, in the Bay Area in the United States. I've been working in the areas of educational leadership and coaching and counseling for about 30 years now. I'm also a published author on a collaborative book titled Transforming Your Life. Anyone who really knows me, they know that my favorite thing in the entire world to do and my most privileged role is being mom. I'm a recent empty nester, and so my dog Max, who's a handsome German Shepherd, is enjoying a lot of my love and attention. So um, thank you all for sharing the comments. You know, and it looks like we do have a range of expertise and in industries here joining us. A lot of diversity in the audience. So thank you all. As a reminder, we'll have a few minutes at the end of the presentation for Q&A. So, but if you have any questions throughout the general presentation, I'm sure the WIN team behind the scenes will be assisting you. So let's go ahead and start our journey together. I'll start by asking a question. If you can raise your hand or drop something in the chat, a note in the chat, if you can relate to this. Have you ever had that moment where you were just knew that something was either right or wrong without being able to explain how you knew why? So maybe you've had that gut feeling, about an opportunity or a person or a decision, and later you realize that your instinct was spot on. That quiet knowing that we're going to talk about today, that's your inner compass. And it's always there guiding us, but often the noise of the everyday life, we don't listen to it, right? So, like for instance, a few years ago, I was at a crossroads in my career, and I had two very realistic opportunities in front of me. One of them on paper seemed like the most logical choice. It was safe, it was stable, it was predictable. I could have done it with my eyes closed, right? But there was something inside of me that really this was this persistent, unshakable feeling that kept pointing me towards taking the riskier option. And that's what I did. But following that inner nudge, right, that it changed my life, opened doors and that I never imagined, honestly. And that through that experience, it really helped reinforce the my belief of the profound importance of trusting my intuition, my inner compass, right? So today we're going to explore how each of us can better understand and strengthen and apply our inner compass, our intuition to make decisions with clarity and confidence and authenticity. If you don't mind to switch to the next slide, that would be great, Melinda. Thank you. When we're talking about inner compass, what does that even mean, right? It's if you think of it as a blend of your intuition, your insight, and then aligning that with your core values, right? It's that it's the internal guidance system that really signals when something feels right or when it doesn't, even before our mind is able to fully process it. Our inner compass, is built from, I would say, two key elements. One of those is intuition, right? Which that's our ability, the ability of the subconscious mind to recognize patterns based on past experiences, emotions, and knowledge. It's what we know to be that gut feeling that we have all felt at some point in time, right? If you think about perhaps you were introduced to a new colleague, but on paper they looked great, right? But there was something when you met them that felt a little off. And perhaps a few weeks later, you discover that they've been a little bit dishonest in their work, right? So your gut instinct from the very get go was warning you all along, right? I would say the second key element of our inner compass is alignment, right? Making decisions that resonate with our deeper core values, our beliefs, and our purpose. When our choices align with who we truly are, we're operating in harmony with our inner compass, right? For instance, similar to what my situation was a few years ago that I mentioned earlier, right? I get a job offer with this big salary, and it requires long working hours and conflicting maybe with my family, my value of like family time, and turning it down for a lesser payer job that aligns more with priorities, right? And feeling at peace with that choice. And however, the inner compass isn't always loud, right? If you think about it, right? It's there's the noise, and we don't always hear it because it often whispers to us. And that's why it's really, I think, important for us to quiet that external noise and listen deeply. Linda, if you could go to the next slide, that would be great. Thank you. So let's take a look at intuition from two angles, right? Spirituality and scientifically, right? From the scientific perception, intuition, it's not magic. It's your brain's way of rapidly processing information that based on past experiences. So neuroscientists, they explain that the limbic system, which is the emotional center of the brain, works alongside of the cortex, which to offer these gut feelings, right? If you again think about a situation where you have met somebody new, and in just a few seconds you recognize whether you could trust this person or not. Your intuition is picking up on the micro expressions, right? You don't whether it's the tone of voice or their body language. It's often faster, your intuition is often faster then your conscious mind is able to process it, right? So I, I have a friend who's a firefighter, and we've different stories. And when a firefighter enters a building, and suddenly there's this urge to get out, even though there's no visible danger, right? And then moments later, the floor collapses, and his brain had already subconsciously processed some of the subtle warning signs before he could even consciously understand the risk that existed, right? And then from the spiritual perspective, right, our intuition connects us to something greater than ourselves, a universal wisdom, or a divine guidance, if you will. And through practices like meditation and prayer or mindfulness, they allow us access to this deeper source of insight. For those of us who may be contemplating a major decision in our lives, and during a moment of quiet meditation, the answer comes clear, and it's not a loud thought. It's just this deep sense of knowing, right? And that's the spiritual aspect of our inner compass, of our intuition. And when we honor both the science and the spirituality, um, we see intuition as both a natural skill and a spiritual gift. If you can switch to the next slide, please. I think the good news about most everything, right? And intuition is like a muscle, right? And the more we use it, the stronger it becomes. So let's look at some practical ways that we can strengthen our inner compass. All right, you on board? Awesome. So if you think about taking a moment to create stillness, because our lives are filled with noise and distractions and constant busyness, right? In order to hear our inner compass, our intuition, we need quiet, right? Whether it's 5 minutes of meditation, or taking a walk in nature, or simply sitting in silence, stillness helps you reconnect with yourself. And one place that I try to put this into practice for myself is before I go into stressful or intense kind of meetings, to ensure that I take that 5 minutes, right, of breathing and just meditation, to get centered with myself, so that I know when I go into that meeting, I've created the space to make decisions from a space of clarity, and rather than stress, regardless of what's happening around me, right? And the intense feelings that might be happening around me. I am centered within myself. And I've done that prior to walking into the meeting by creating that sense of stillness. Another way, that can help build this muscle is really it's listening to our body, right? We hear it all the time. Listen to our body. Listen to your body. Um, and it's because our body actually often knows what our mind cannot articulate, right? It knows it before it. And maybe raise your hand if you've ever felt that knot in your stomach, right? Or when you faced a tough decision, um, or the sense of lightness when the answer is right, right? It's important for us to learn how to tune into the physical cues of our body, right? As I mentioned earlier, I'm a recent empty nester, right? And when my daughter was considering the colleges, which college she was going to go to, when thinking about one, it was clear she felt excited. I could see it in her, but it was important for her to make this decision, right? She felt excited and a sense of relief at some level. But when she was thinking about the other that she really liked as well and had reasons that she wanted to go there was also some more anxiety that came up, the feelings of anxiety for her that came up in that. So when making the decision, it was important for her, and processing through that, listening to the physical cues of her body. And of course, she chose the one that she was most excited about. And it felt just right for her, when she walked on that campus. So she knew that feeling was there. So I think another practice that I found helpful in building this muscle of paying attention and of my inner um, just compass and intuition is journaling. Journaling for clarity. So when I have a tough decision to make, I have a practice of journaling about that decision for a few days, right? Sometimes a little longer. But and then when I go back and I read and reflect on what I've written down, I start to notice patterns that that exist within my journaling, right? And those patterns ultimately give me insight and clarity of the decision that's truly in alignment with my intuition and my core values, which sometimes again can get lost in everything that's happening, right? So some of those reflective questions that I like to ask, and you can jot these down if you like. It's does this decision again align with my core values? That's really important. And how does this choice make me feel in my gut? And a big and important one that I learned along the way, it took me some time, but am I acting out of fear or in a place of trust? So when I'm journaling, I'm just journaling, and then when I go back, I'm reflecting on what I've written, and I use these questions as a guide. So I think the other thing that we have to be kind to ourselves, right, and not so critical. And it's thinking about trusting ourselves, like doing it in small decisions, right? Trusting your intuition, just on which route to take home, right? There's traffic. Which do I stay on, where I am, or do I try to take a different route to get where I need to be, or which book to read? Each act of trust that we build, it will build the confidence, right, in our inner compass, our intuition. So if you'll go to the next slide, please. So let's understand how to cultivate our inner compass. And it's like, so how do we apply this, what we're talking about here today? Um, I'm sure you've heard of the power of the pause. It's one of my favorite things to really to bring up with my team, or to say, or even to myself, remind myself. It's when we're faced with a decision, resisting that urge to rush, right? Taking a moment and pausing and checking in with your intuition. And it might be as simple as taking a deep breath or a short walk, talking to a mentor, if you will, but being able to really pause before acting, right, and reflect, and making sure that you're in alignment, with your core values, right, and you're hearing your tuition. It's I think the other thing is being able to blend intuition with logic, right? Intuition and logic are not enemies, right? They're actually partners, and they gather facts. It's important for us when we're doing it. We're gathering facts, and we're weighing our options, and we're listening to what our intuition is telling us, right? So another way to apply your inner compass in decision making is visualizing the outcome. We hear a lot about visualization and meditation and visualization, and bringing to fruition what we're thinking, what we're saying, and being mindful of what we say, because it brings into our world, right? I that's one of the practices that I use, and I found it helpful, and I'm sharing with you today. I like to close my eyes and imagine living with each of the decisions or choices, right, for a week or a month or even a year, right, depending upon what it is. When I'm faced with making a decision, really closing my eyes and visualizing what would it like, would my life be like in that time, with this particular decision. And it takes some focus, and sometimes you notice this. I notice the scenarios and how they make me feel, and that helps bring the sense of peace and alignment, so that I know, like, which one is right. It's just reconnecting, with myself, and making sure that my decisions are aligned with the core values. And that's, I think, the final thing that you can really do, when we're thinking about how to apply this, is really making sure that your decisions are made with are aligned with your core values, right? Write down your top 3 values and use them in as a guidepost for every decision that you're making. Um, if you were to see my desk here, it's clear. They're in my face so that I don't forget. Right. Um, let's go ahead and move on to the next slide, please. But, obviously, even when you have a strong intuition and a strong inner compass, challenges will arise. That's life, right? And we have to keep practicing it. So let's address a few of those challenges. For me, and maybe some of you can relate to this, overthinking. Sometimes we second guess ourselves to the point of paralysis. And when this happens, it's really just important to remind ourselves that our intuition, our inner compass can be trusted. It's trustworthy. Start with what feels right at the very least. Fear of judgment, right? Worrying so much about what others think can really drown out our intuition. So remember, no one else has your unique perspective or purpose, and trust your voice. I think we're all in this world that we're living in, right? The social media, the opinions, you may have people who are very have like to share their opinions loudly, and societal expectations. All of those things can cloud our judgment. So being able to get rid of the external noise as much as possible. We talked earlier about creating this stillness and stepping away from the noise and reconnecting with our inner stillness. And these strategies, you know, I mean, there are different strategies that we can use to overcome some of these barriers, right? And some that I've come in that have been helpful for me. It's really that the grounding exercises, and honestly, I have trusted mentors and coaches that I lean into. We're not expected to do this all by ourselves, and we're human. It's going to be more challenging sometimes than others. So, just being able to overcome the barriers. And if you have some that you use, if you have different strategies that you use, please share them in the chat. That would be great. We're all trying to learn from each other here. It's really great. So if you can move on to the next slide, that would be awesome. I think this is where we're talking about the ripple effect of really intuitive leadership, right? And when we lead with our inner compass, or when you lead with your inner compass, there's the ability to impact. The impact will extend beyond yourself, right? You end up inspiring trust and authenticity in others, and people are drawn to leaders who make decisions with clarity and courage and alignment. And when we're working with teams, it creates this. When we do this, we're creating a ripple effect, right? Fostering collaboration and openness, and encouraging others to trust their own instincts, and then fully stepping into themselves at the table, and just really cultivating a culture where there's authenticity and innovation that can be created. So, you know, if you are a leader on wherever you work, right, and you had a sense that somebody is struggling, it's okay. Even if they haven't said anything, take a moment to check in, right? Start the conversation, which may then lead to some sort of breakthrough that ultimately builds and strengthens your team. So it's okay to take that, to trust that instinct, right? Because they haven't said anything, but go ahead and check in with them. We all need and want that connection. It's really important. And for those of us who are parents, if you're sensing your child is holding back emotions about something, and instead of pushing, right, pushing to find out what it is, you know, gently be able to create the space for them to open up, right, naturally, by being compassionate, and maybe some of the questions that you're asking, right? So I know I just if you can go to the next slide, I know I just have a couple minutes left, and I want to be able to just leave you with a couple of thoughts, right? I It's important to remember that your inner compass, your intuition is always with you. You don't need to search for it, right? You just need to connect with it. And every decision you make, whether that's big or small, it's an opportunity to trust yourself and align your values and to move closer to your true purpose. The world doesn't need leaders who follow the crowd. It needs leaders, we, the world, the global world, we need leaders who trust their intuition and align their core values with their decision making to lead us. So I ask you today, I invite you to pause and listen, and most importantly, trust. Trust your inner compass will guide you, your intuition will guide you exactly where you need to go. Thank you so much. I am, again, grateful for the time that we've spent here together. And I'm happy to answer some questions if there is time. Melinda, I'm happy to answer questions. Feel free to let me know. You can put some in the chat too. Hi, Melinda.
Hello, hello. Hi, Christy. Thank you so much for the amazing and motivating presentation. So, we do have a lot of questions from the audience, but I will pick the best one for you. This is the question for you. So, how does self awareness contribute to long term success in leadership and personal growth?
Do you mind repeating that one more time? I had to turn up my volume. Sorry.
Here, here. How does self awareness contribute to long term success in leadership and personal growth?
Mm, that's a great question. I think that when we're looking at leadership and the impact that we're having, the impact that we can have on others, it really just is being able to recognize when we are being authentic to ourselves and authentic with one another and trusting our inner compass and our, again, going back to aligning our decisions with values, it's being able to, that's when we're going to have the lasting impact on leadership and those around our team, right? I think that most importantly, and recognize that we're not all perfect, right? And I would say, just from experience, our team members need to know we are human and we're vulnerable, and we can, we're gonna make, we have their back, and they can trust us and we can trust them.
That was really a great answering for this question. Thank you so much for joining this Global Virtual Summit 2025 Day 1. So please do encourage other speaker sessions. Please post your questions and please engage with the audience as well as with the speakers, and join continuously for these 3 days, March 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. So thank you so much for showing the interest with Global Virtual Summit 2025. So hoping
Thank
along
you,
your
Melinda.
journey. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much, and your team. I appreciate you so much.
So thank you. And so let's take a 30 minutes of break. The speaker is not joining, so let's take a quick break, 30 minutes.
Thank you.